What's going on, everybody? Have you thrown your controller across the room while fighting the crazy, doped out bosses of the first Berserker Khazan? Well, you're not alone. Tons of players are rage quitting this game. It's quickly gained a reputation as one of the most punishing Souls-like games ever. In fact, just a couple of days ago, the official Khazan Twitter account released this infographic detailing that there have been 37 million deaths to bosses in this game, and 7.4 million of those were to Viper. What is going on here? Today we're diving into why so many are hitting the uninstall button, whether the difficulty is actually broken, and most importantly, the strategies that will keep you in the fight when everyone else has given up. If you're on the verge of quitting, I urge you to stick around for this one. To start, I hate the fact that so many people are struggling with this game. I want others to overcome their limits and fall in love with this amazing action RPG the same way that I have. The biggest complaint I'm seeing from players is that the health bars of bosses are just way too big. I can somewhat empathize because there's no way to create a quote-unquote cheese build to steamroll any one boss, nor is there a way to overlevel a character. At best, you pump up your health and stamina to give yourself a better fighting chance. The second biggest critique is that bosses move too quickly and erratically. They find it near impossible to time brink guard and brink dodge, let alone reflections. I can see where gamers would get frustrated by learning boss movesets. That's honestly something intrinsic to the genre. I want to quickly address these two issues with big picture responses before moving on to more detailed advice. First, bosses do have big HP bars, but as players, we have a number of ways to chunk them down fairly quickly. For one, we have powerful spirit skills that use up 0 stamina while dealing more damage than regular attacks. You can stagger enemies by hitting their weak points, leaving them open to a barrage of attacks. Then we have items and abilities specifically catered to crushing our enemy's stamina bars. This will exhaust them and leave them open to burst attacks. Secondly, you're almost guaranteed to get hit by every single attack a boss has in their moveset, so you need to give yourself a chance to survive and then learn their patterns. You do this by pumping up your vitality and endurance. In doing so, you give yourself more time to see what the enemy is capable of and decide what you're comfortable counterattacking. The first Berserker Khazan is different from a lot of Souls-like in the regard that you can't just wait for an opening to attack twice, dodge out of the way, and reset the neutral state of a fight. You have to wait for the right moment to strike, press your advantage to the fullest, and keep your enemy within weapon reach so that they can never regen their health or stamina. Okay, keep those words in mind while we go over several ways our struggling gamer friends can pick themselves up and push through the campaign. We're going to start at the macro level, systems and mechanics, and gradually get down to the granular where player skill starts to become a factor. If you're a player who constantly struggles with these Souls-like games and finds it near impossible to complete the campaign, then you probably need to jump down to easy mode. It's not a knock on you as a gamer, it just means you have a different learning curve. Easy mode comes with a few benefits. To start, there is higher player health, lower enemy health, and faster stamina recovery. On top of that, players deal more damage while enemies deal less damage. Khazan's weight limit is increased for his gear, and you start off with higher attribute resistances for all elements. Take the easy mode route. You won't improve or learn anything about the game if every step along the way is a struggle. By the way, there's more to this game than boss fights. Experience the various areas, the monster variety, the multitude of gear aesthetics, the solid narrative, and some really great voice acting. Then, after you beat the campaign, you can come back and start a normal mode file to increase the difficulty and challenge yourself even more. Now that the game is slightly easier, let's also add a spirit of advocacy to help you in every boss fight. You'll see a golden netherworld rift next to every boss door. If you interact with it, you can summon a spirit to fight alongside you. Summoning them costs Lacrima of circulation. You collect these items by defeating revenants of adversity throughout the game. Another thing you can do with these circulations is upgrade the strength of your spirit. Once you've collected several of these, go speak to Defrona and Crevice. You'll be given 3 options: Spirit of Advocacy health increase, damage increase, and stamina increase. You'll want your spirit to tank for you so that you can hit enemies from the back. So really focus on health increases. I think once you have at least plus 1000 to HP, then you can start putting points into damage. Another way to beef up your Spirit of Advocacy is by choosing Veronica as your equipped Phantom. She will buff the damage your spirit deals. As she passively gains experience and levels up, your spirit's attack damage will continue to increase also. If you manage to push yourself pretty far into the campaign, you can collect the Guardian Knight set. It's a necklace and ring set that will boost your Spirit of Advocacy damage by 50%. Most sets only need slots from your weapon and armor, so it really takes nothing away from your own abilities to use this Guardian Knight set. So we've toned down the game's difficulty, we've added a powerful ally to fight with us. Now let's boost our own strength. So let's talk about Soul Stones. These are the red glowing crystals that you find and destroy throughout each level. Once you have enough, you can turn these into Dephrona to boost one of two options. The first is to increase the amount of Lacrima you receive per interaction. Unfortunately, gaining a small percentage more of Lacrima on every kill is practically useless. There are so many different ways to gather this material that it makes the upgrades meaningless. Instead, you always want to choose the second option. That is upgrading the amount of health you can recover. Essentially, this boosts the amount of health that you regen after using a nether energy. And since there aren't a lot of ways to heal in the first Berserker, you want to definitely take advantage of this one. Better healing equals more effective health, so you can tank more hits and take bigger risks to stay aggressive. Now that we have more health, let's increase our damage as well. From the Nexus Blade menu screen, we have Khazan's Memories. Before I get into the options that we have here, I have to inform you that the currency for these upgrades is called Revenge Points. You gain these by completing missions in the game, and it's highly likely that you have way more than you think. The menu screen does not update itself when you pick up these points during exploration. You actually have to hover over each lit up region in order to access the points for upgrades. Okay, now that you've done that, you get three options to choose from: Stamina Damage Increase, Damage Increase, and Damage Multiplier Increase. Definitely invest your first points into Stamina Damage Increase. This is especially true if you're a spear user like myself. It will lead into exhausting enemies in fewer hits and thus damaging them even more often. A good strategy might be to split your points up between Stamina Damage and Flat Damage Increase. From my experience and from what others have been saying, the Damage Multiplier Increase is the least important of the three. Up to this point, it's been all about making the game easier and passively upgrading our character in combat. Passive being the key word here. Now we start to get into taking agency into our own hands. Let's go over some consumables. I think the best bang for your buck, during boss fights at least, is to use three types of items, excluding nether energy. Those are Vitality Spheres, Essences, and Enhancers. At the start of a boss fight, I recommend you pop a Vitality Sphere. Vitality Spheres will increase the amount of stamina you recover over time. That translates to more dodges and more attacks before your stamina bar depletes. Your job is to keep this buff on the entire fight, so pop another sphere as necessary. Early on, you'll have access to Concentrated Water Essence. Essences deal damage over time in a small area, so you want to throw these when the boss is stunned or exhausted. Later, you'll have access to Enhancers. Enhancers add elemental attributes to your weapon for a short amount of time. I did some testing against Viper, and here's what I've come up with for damage numbers. Keep in mind, these are in normal mode. Concentrated Water Essence deals 11 ticks of 175 damage each, equaling 1,925 damage. Water Enhancer adds a small amount of bonus damage per attack swing. For instance, I did 3 light attacks with the spear. The first hit did 36 bonus damage, the second did 40, and the third did 82. This buff lasts about a minute, so it's only really potent if you know you can get plenty of swings in against the boss. If it's a boss that likes to run away constantly or deal damage from afar, like mages, then this item is a lot less potent. And no, Enhancer does not proc on the hits from your Moonlight after image attacks. One last thing on consumables, a huge complaint people have of Khazan is that there aren't enough sources of healing. That being the case, you'll want to maximize the amount of nether energy you can hold. So I recommend you look up on a wiki where you can gather each one of these to boost your survivability. Besides consumables, you can ultimately buff yourself through your own skills. Pay close attention to the abilities in your skill tree, because some of them can boost your stamina recovery and even increase the damage you deal to enemies. Let's look at a few you gain access to early on. Starting with Dual Wield, you can get Gale under the Potent Blow column. This ability will inflict injured status on the enemy. If you continue to attack the enemy, you will gain stacks of Vigor, up to 10, and each stack provides a bonus to your attack damage. From my research, it is a 1.5% damage increase per stack. lasting 30 seconds. Moving on to Greatsword, you have Furious Swipe in the Overrun column. This skill allows you to brink dodge while performing a spinning slash, and if you successfully brink dodge, you gain the spirit spent on the Furious Swipe. That's basically a free spirit skill when you perform a brink dodge, and if the enemy is swinging a lot, that could be a lot of extra damage really quickly. Lastly, in the spear skill trees, we have Moonlight Stance. The skills in this column grant after image attacks as well as increased stamina recovery, and you could buff up Moonlight Stance damage even more with Phantom Heatwave from the guard column. But keep in mind, no matter how good these skills are, you have to use them correctly. Even the best skills would be useless if you had a big damage opportunity, but then only hit the boss with 3 light attacks and then watch them jump away. So learn what your skills do, find the ones to complement your fighting style, and practice them in training grounds before you take them into a boss encounter. If you use all the tips we've gone over, I promise you'll get much further into the game than you've ever reached. I've given you a lot of information on systems and mechanics to increase your chances of killing bosses, but in the end, you have to push your limits and fight aggressively, dodging enemy attacks, using your abilities, conserving stamina, and buffing your weapons, all the while chunking down the boss's stamina bar. It's a delicate dance, and one that makes the first Berserker different than most other Souls-likes, but in my opinion, it's what also makes it better than most. If you found this guide helpful, please let me know down below. Also, if there's something in the game you find broken or too hard, leave it down below as well, because I'm sure you'll get great advice from our community on how to overcome and persevere. Anyway, I know for a fact that there are still some players who haven't taken down Viper, so I'm going to show a clip here of what I think a typical fight with Viper would look like for struggling players. I used no reflections, no brink guards, and even no counterattacks on Viper's burst attack. Well, enjoy the fight, and I'll talk to you all again soon. Take care.